There are moments in life when it feels like everything has come to a standstill. When prayers seem unanswered, doors stay shut, and hope flickers like a dying candle. But I want to tell you something today that will stir your heart. Your breakthrough is coming quickly. You won't believe it. God has not forgotten you. Heaven has not gone silent. What you've been waiting for, what you've been crying out for, is already on its way. You see, God often works behind the scenes long before we see any sign of change. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. The farmer plants a seed and waits. Beneath the soil, there is movement, there is life, but from the surface it looks like nothing. That's what faith is. Trusting that God is working, even when the surface looks silent. Some of you have prayed for years, fought battles in secret, and wondered if the breakthrough would ever come. But I want to tell you today, the seed you planted in tears is about to bloom in joy. Sometimes God moves suddenly. One touch, one phone call, one open door, and everything changes. It doesn't take him long to shift your story. The same God who turned Joseph's prison into a palace, who split the Red Sea for Moses, who turned David's sling into victory over Goliath. That same God is about to do something in your life that will make you say, only God could have done this. You might feel like you're surrounded by impossibilities. Maybe the mountain in front of you feels too high to climb. Maybe the storm is too fierce, the valley too dark, the pain too deep. But remember this, the size of your problem does not intimidate God. He spoke galaxies into existence with a word. He calmed the wind and the waves with a whisper. And he can calm the storm in your life with one divine command. There's a story in Scripture about a man named Lazarus. He was dead for 4 days. People had already given up hope. But Jesus arrived and said, "Roll away the stone." Everyone thought it was too late, that death had won. But Jesus called Lazarus by name and said, "Come forth." And the man who was dead walked out of the tomb. Friend, maybe your dream feels buried, your faith feels cold, your heart feels tired. But I hear the Spirit of God saying today, come forth. Your situation is not dead. It's being prepared for resurrection. When you least expect it, God will step in. When you've exhausted your strength, that's when His power begins to work. Sometimes He waits until it looks impossible so that no one else can take the credit but Him. When He does it, you'll know it wasn't your effort, your talent, or your plan. It was His favor, His timing, His miracle. You see, God specializes in the impossible. He delights in turning broken pieces into beautiful stories. The pain you've endured wasn't wasted. It was preparation. Every tear watered the ground for your harvest. Every disappointment positioned you closer to divine destiny. Sometimes, what feels like a delay is actually God's setup for something greater than you could imagine. There's someone listening right now who's been saying, God, I can't take this anymore. You've felt the weight, the loneliness, the waiting. You've watched others receive their answers while you're still in the hallway of patience. But hear this, your time is near. You are closer than you think. Don't give up now. The night is almost over. The dawn is about to break. When the Israelites stood at the Red Sea, they had Pharaoh's army behind them and an impossible barrier before them. Fear filled their hearts. But God said to Moses, tell the people to move forward. That's all he needed, a step of faith. When they moved, the waters parted. God didn't part the sea while they were standing still. He did it when they moved forward in obedience. Sometimes, your breakthrough begins with one step of faith, one prayer spoken in belief, one act of trust when everything inside you screams to give up. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward despite it. It's believing God's promise more than your present pain. It's saying, God, I don't see how, but I know you can. That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith unlocks miracles. And when your breakthrough comes, and it will, it won't be small or ordinary. God is not limited to giving you leftovers. When He blesses, He overflows. The cup doesn't just fill, it runs over. The net doesn't just hold fish, it breaks from abundance. The door doesn't just open, it swings wide. When God brings your breakthrough, it will come pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Maybe you've been through losses that broke you, relationships that wounded you, or seasons that tested every ounce of faith you had. But God says, I am making all things new. You will laugh again. You will dream again. You will rise again. The ashes of your past are not the end. They are the soil for new beginnings. And when that breakthrough arrives, when the thing you prayed for finally appears, you'll realize why the wait was necessary. You'll see how every closed door protected you. You'll understand why certain people left, why certain plans failed, and why certain seasons felt empty. It was all leading you here to the place where your faith could carry the weight of your blessing. So hold on. Keep believing. Don't let your faith die in the waiting room. You are not forgotten. You are not overlooked. Heaven has heard every prayer, seen every tear, and counted every sleepless night. God is faithful, and His promises never expire. Your breakthrough is coming quickly, not because of who you are, but because of who He is. His power is limitless. His mercy is endless. His love for you is beyond measure. The God who began a good work in you will finish it. He's not done writing your story. The next chapter is going to make sense of everything that confused you before. So lift your head. Wipe your tears. Stand firm in faith. The wind is shifting. The season is changing. The walls that stood tall for years are about to crumble. The chains that held you down are about to break. The door that's been closed is about to open, so wide you'll stand in awe. Your breakthrough is not a distant dream. It's closer than you think. It's moving toward you right now. And when it comes, you won't believe how quickly God turned it all around. One moment of divine favor will make up for years of struggle. One act of God's power will change everything. Get ready. Your breakthrough is coming quickly, and it will be more beautiful, more powerful, and more miraculous than anything you've ever imagined. God is always working behind the scenes, even when your eyes can't see it, even when your heart can't feel it, and even when your mind can't understand it. There are times when heaven seems silent, when your prayers echo back without an answer, and it feels like God has stepped away. But in those very moments, He is the most active. Just because you can't see the hand of God doesn't mean His hand isn't moving. Behind the curtain of what looks like stillness, there is divine activity shaping outcomes, shifting circumstances, and arranging divine connections that will one day make perfect sense. Life often feels like a puzzle with missing pieces. You can't see the full picture yet, but God does. He's fitting things together in His timing, not yours. Sometimes He hides His work because faith must grow in the dark. A seed doesn't grow on the surface. It grows underground, in a place where no one can see. You can't see the roots spreading, but they are preparing for the bloom that will come later. God works the same way with you. He's establishing roots of strength, endurance, and faith so that when the breakthrough comes, you'll be able to carry the blessing. When you're in the waiting room of faith, it's easy to believe nothing is happening. You look around and see others being blessed, others receiving answers, while you sit wondering if God has forgotten your name. But God is not absent. He is preparing something greater. Sometimes He delays the visible so He can perfect the invisible. While you're praying for the outcome, He's working on your heart. While you're asking for a change in your situation, He's refining your character. What He builds in secret sustains what He reveals in public. Think of Joseph. He was thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, and forgotten in prison. From the outside, it looked like his life was falling apart. But behind the scenes, God was orchestrating every detail. The betrayal, the slavery, the waiting. It was all part of a divine process leading to the palace. When Joseph finally stood in power, he could look back and realize that every painful moment was a step toward his destiny. In the same way, your pain is not pointless. Your delay is not denial. It's divine timing in disguise. You might not understand why certain doors closed, why people left, or why the plan you were so sure of suddenly crumbled. But God is not punishing you. He's positioning you. If He closed one door, it's because He saw something ahead that you couldn't. If He allowed a delay, it's because what's coming needs more preparation. God never wastes a season. Even when you feel stuck, He's moving pieces you can't see. He's setting you up for something you wouldn't have been ready for otherwise. There are angels assigned to your prayers, carrying them into divine timing. There are conversations happening about you in rooms you haven't entered yet. There are blessings with your name on them that are being aligned in perfect order. You might be in a season of silence, but God is never still. The same God who parts seas, who opens prison doors, who brings dead dreams back to life. He's working in the quiet. He's building what your faith will one day see. When you can't trace His hand, trust His heart. God doesn't need to show you every step to prove that He's working. Faith isn't seeing and believing. It's believing before seeing. The unseen work is the foundation of every visible miracle. Before there was light, there was darkness. And in that darkness, God was already creating. Before the resurrection came the tomb. And even in that tomb, heaven was busy rewriting the story. So if you're in the dark right now, if it feels like nothing is moving, know that this is where God does His best work. The silence doesn't mean absence. It means strategy. The waiting doesn't mean you're forgotten. It means you're being prepared for the moment. When everything changes in an instant, your breakthrough will come suddenly and transform everything. When God decides it is time, nothing can delay or stop what He has ordained. You may have waited for months, even years, believing and praying, wondering when the change would come. But when His appointed moment arrives, everything can shift in a single breath. God is not bound by time or circumstance. What seems slow to you is right on schedule in heaven's calendar. His sudden movements often come when we least expect them, when we've reached the end of our strength, when we've surrendered every plan and said, God, I trust you anyway. That's when He steps in and turns the impossible into reality. Throughout Scripture, we see this pattern repeated over and over again. In one moment, the walls of Jericho stood tall, unbreakable and intimidating. But in the next moment, after obedience and faith, they came crashing down with a shout. One moment Peter was fishing all night and catching nothing. But one word from Jesus, cast your net on the other side, filled his boat until it overflowed. One moment the widow was down to her last drop of oil, ready to give up. But a divine instruction turned her empty jars into an endless supply. God's breakthroughs rarely come gradually. They arrive suddenly, powerfully, and undeniably. The reason God moves suddenly is so that we will know it was Him and not us. When a breakthrough comes slowly, we might be tempted to think our strength or wisdom brought it about. But when it happens in a moment, when everything turns around so fast that you can hardly process it, you can only point upward and say, that was God. He delights in revealing His power at just the right time. He waits until it looks impossible, so that His glory can be fully seen. Your breakthrough might not come through the path you expect. Sometimes God closes familiar doors so He can open one that leads to destiny. He may use unexpected people, unusual situations, or even moments of disappointment to prepare you for what's next. The very place where you feel stuck could be the spot where God's sudden move begins. The prison became Joseph's gateway to the palace. The fiery furnace became the platform for God's glory. The cross became the doorway to resurrection. What looks like the end is often the setup for a supernatural new beginning. The waiting season can be the hardest part, because everything in you wants to fix it, to force it, to see some kind of progress. But breakthroughs aren't earned by effort. They are released by trust. God often allows us to come to the point where our own strength fails so that we can experience His power. When you stop striving and start trusting, that's when the shift begins. You might not see it yet, but the atmosphere is changing. The heavens are aligning with God's word over your life. And when that moment comes, you'll know it. Suddenly, what was locked will open. Suddenly, what was heavy will lift. Suddenly, the burden you carried for years will break off, and the peace of God will flood your heart. One conversation, one encounter, one decision guided by His hand can move you from waiting to walking in victory. God does not need years to bless you. He can do in a moment what would have taken a lifetime. There is a divine acceleration that happens when God's favor meets faith. Doors that were once closed swing wide. Opportunities you never thought possible start appearing. People who forgot you begin to remember you. Everything that was delayed begins to move swiftly. It's not luck, it's not coincidence. It's the supernatural speed of God fulfilling His promises. So, stay ready even when nothing seems to be happening. Keep your heart expectant, because God's timing is never random. The same God who turned water into wine in an instant, who healed the blind man with a touch, who calmed the storm with a single word, is the same God who can shift your life in one divine moment. One phone call can change your story. One open door can erase years of waiting. One answered prayer can make you realize why it took so long. Because what's coming is so great, it needed heaven's perfect timing to arrive. When your breakthrough comes, it won't be partial or delayed. It will be sudden, complete, and undeniable, and it will transform everything around you. Faith in the waiting season prepares you for divine victory. Waiting is one of the hardest tests of faith because it demands that you trust God when nothing makes sense, when prayers seem unanswered, and when life feels still. But waiting is not wasted time in the kingdom of God. It is training ground for your spirit. In the waiting, your faith is refined, your trust deepens, and your dependence on God grows stronger. It is in those quiet stretches where God works on your heart, teaching you to believe beyond what you can see. Every delay, every pause, every unanswered prayer is shaping something inside you that will be necessary when your breakthrough finally arrives. There is something sacred about waiting because it breaks down self-reliance. When you've done everything you can and nothing changes, you begin to realize that only God can do what needs to be done. That is the moment your faith shifts from human effort to divine trust. Abraham had to wait for years before he saw the promise of Isaac fulfilled. Joseph waited through betrayal and prison before reaching the palace. David waited through persecution before he sat on the throne. Every man or woman God used greatly had to endure a season of waiting, because waiting builds the strength to carry the weight of destiny. Faith is not proven when things are easy, it is proven when things are silent. It's easy to trust God when the blessings flow and doors open, but true faith is holding on when nothing moves. It's standing still when every voice around you says, "Give up." It's whispering, "God, I still believe," even when your heart aches from disappointment. The waiting season separates those who want a quick answer from those who truly trust God's plan. Waiting reveals whether your faith is rooted in results or in relationship. God often delays what we desire to prepare us for what He's promised. If He gave it too soon, we might mishandle it. There are blessings that require maturity to sustain, victories that demand endurance to protect, and callings that require humility to fulfill. The waiting is God's way of strengthening your character before He increases your influence. Every test, every closed door, every not yet is heaven's way of building something unshakable inside of you. While you are waiting for the promise, God is working on the person you are becoming. Sometimes in the waiting season, it feels like God is far away, but that's when He's closest. When you can't hear His voice, it's because He trusts you to walk by faith. Silence is not abandonment, it's an invitation to grow deeper. When a teacher gives a test, they don't talk during the exam. They've already given the instruction. In the same way, when God seems silent, He's watching to see if you'll apply what He's already taught you. The test of waiting refines obedience, teaches patience, and produces endurance that can't be developed any other way. Faith in waiting isn't passive, it's active trust. It's waking up every morning and saying, "God, I don't see it yet, but I know You're faithful." It's praying when you feel weary, praising when you feel discouraged, and serving even when you feel unseen. That's how your spirit grows strong. That's how heaven knows you're ready. Waiting doesn't mean doing nothing. It means trusting while doing the next right thing. Believing that every small act of faith is leading you toward a bigger promise. There's a deep beauty in watching faith grow through waiting. It purifies your motives, humbles your pride, and anchors your heart. When the breakthrough finally comes, you'll appreciate it more deeply because You know what it costs to get there. You'll recognize that the blessing wasn't the victory itself. It was who you became while waiting for it. The waiting builds warriors who can stand when storms rise, believers who can worship in the fire, and followers who trust even when they don't understand. When your faith is tested through waiting, it gains endurance that will carry you through every battle ahead. God is not making you wait to punish you. He's preparing you to handle the miracle. A tree planted in shallow soil grows quickly, but falls easily when the wind blows. A tree with deep roots grows slowly, but it stands strong when the storm comes. Waiting builds deep roots of faith. When the wind of trouble blows, you'll remain unshaken because you learned to trust God before you saw results. The waiting season is not a pause in your purpose. It is part of it. It's where strength, resilience, and unwavering trust are born. And when the time comes, when God opens the door, you'll realize that every moment of waiting was worth it, because your faith was forged in the fire, and that faith will be the very thing that leads you into divine victory. Every season of waiting, every tear, every silent prayer has been leading to this moment. The moment when faith meets fulfillment. What felt like delay was never denial. It was divine preparation. God has seen every struggle, heard every whisper, and counted every sleepless night. Nothing has been wasted. Behind the scenes, He has been orchestrating your breakthrough, weaving together every broken thread into a masterpiece of grace. You may not have understood the process, but one day soon, you will look back and realize that every step, even the painful ones, were guiding you closer to the promise He spoke over your life. The same God who spoke light into darkness is the one speaking over your situation right now. He has the power to reverse what looks irreversible, to restore what seems lost, and to bring beauty out of ashes. When God steps in, things change quickly. What took years to build can shift in a moment of divine favor. The pain that once crushed you will become the platform that lifts you. The very place where you were broken will become the testimony that inspires others. God never wastes pain. He transforms it into purpose. Your breakthrough is not a dream far off in the distance. It's closer than you think. Heaven is aligning, doors are unlocking, and answers are on the way. You've been faithful in the waiting. You've prayed when it was hard, and you've held on when it felt easier to give up. That kind of faith never goes unnoticed by God. He rewards those who trust Him even in the dark. And when His timing arrives, it comes suddenly, like a sunrise after the longest night, like rain after a season of drought, like freedom after years of captivity. This is the moment to strengthen your heart, to lift your head, and to expect something greater. Don't let the weariness of waiting rob you of the miracle that's about to unfold. Keep believing. Keep speaking faith. Keep expecting His goodness. God has not brought you this far to leave you here. Every battle you've fought, every test you've endured, has prepared you to handle the blessing that's coming. The struggle built your strength. The waiting grew your wisdom. The pain birthed your purpose. When your breakthrough comes, and it will, it won't just change your circumstances, it will transform you from the inside out. You will stand in awe of how quickly God can turn mourning into joy, emptiness into overflow, waiting into winning. And you will know, without a shadow of doubt, that it was His hand that did it all. So hold on, even if it's by a thread of faith. Your story is not over. The author is still writing. What's coming will make sense of every chapter that once brought you to your knees. The God who began the work will finish it with power, beauty, and grace. Your breakthrough is coming quickly, and when it does, you won't believe how glorious His timing truly was.